up, everybody? Axe Wizard here with a video about I did a thing. I joined a game jam. Now, for those who aren't aware, I've done game jams before, but that was when I was using the Game Maker Studio engine and not with the Godot engine. So a few weeks ago, I was looking up like what are some Godot jams that go on. And I found Godot Wild Jam, and then it was happening at the time when I found it, it was happening in like 2 days. I was like, okay, perfect. And I was thinking maybe I might get my boys involved because they like doing art. So maybe they could do the art, I could do the coding, we can collab on sound effects and story and come up with a cool game for whatever theme is presented to us. So we did it. Now, this jam works a little different than how I typically thought jams work. This one's a bit longer, which is nice, because I primarily did the GM48 jam. So this is the jam that I normally do, or normally did years ago. So if we search for Axe Wizard on here, you can see I've got 8 entries, and my team name was Hemophiliac Knife Fight. So you can see these are from a few years ago. So I've got entries from 2017, 2018, 2019. The last one that we did was in 2020. Monkey Clone Escape. So it's been 4 years since I did a game jam. And this is really cool. So the old ones I did were 48-hour game jams. You have 2 days to make a game start to finish. This one was 9 days. It's basically starts on a Friday, the theme gets announced, and then you have all that week, and then you have like the next Sunday to get it submitted. So it's a 9-day jam. So super cool. So this one worked a little bit different than I was used to. So the GM48 is like this self-contained website that you submit your builds and stuff to, and everything is contained on here. Godot Wild Jam goes off of itch.io, which is a site that I was aware of, but I've never messed with it, and I like it. So I joined the Godot Wild Jam, the 71st one, and the game that my sons and I made was Catacomb of Consequences, because the theme, as you probably saw me looking at here, the theme was unintended consequences. So I wanted to make a quick devlog about... Well, I don't know how quick it's going to be, but I wanted to make a devlog that talks about my experience doing this, because I kind of have like a little journal I made like every day of like what we did, and so it'd be kind of cool to go over it. And but first, let's go ahead and let's play the game, because that's fun, and I like games. So it just runs in a browser, which is really cool. Also, fun fact, I have the source code in my GitHub. So if you want to see how bad I was panicking trying to code this, take a look, because it's pretty ugly. So we'll talk about that soon. But let's play the game. So what is this game? First, let's talk about the theme, right? So the theme was unintended consequences. So the first day, Friday, is when I picked up my boys. We didn't get home until a few hours after the theme was unveiled, and so we spent that night before bed just kind of going over ideas and thinking about what we should do. Now the boys were throwing out ideas left and right. They had a lot of cool ideas, and I was trying not to be the killjoy there, but I had to kind of pump the brakes a little bit. I was like, guys, we've only got 9 days in limited time, and I don't know if I can pull this off. These are great ideas, but let's think smaller. So what we settled on is, our first thought was a game like Noida on Steam, to where it's like, it's like this physics game where there's tons of unintended consequences. Like, you might shoot like a wand at something and detonate this barrel that takes out a wall, and all of a sudden acid is dumping everywhere, and you're trying to like not, get incinerated or whatever, right? So that was the big idea they had at first, like, oh, we can do something like that. I'm like, no, we can't. I can't do that. Not in 9 days I can't. Especially because I think Noida made their own engine to achieve all that stuff. I'm sure I could have probably rigged something up, but I wasn't feeling that confident, especially because I haven't been programming a lot lately, because I've been so burnt out from work doing all this other stuff. that I haven't really fired up Godot that much. You know, I've got my own devlog I've been making for this game I've been making, Neurality 3092, and I think my last devlog on that was like a year ago, like shortly before I got hired at my new job. That's been pretty demanding for me so far. So the game we decided to make was like an escape room style game, to where, you know, you get to pick up different objects and you can interact with things, and there might be some unintended consequences. And so the boys liked it, and my youngest went straight away and started making a bunch of characters. So let's just play the game real quick. So we start out with this voice line, and I should have put a small delay up before the thing starts playing, because while it's loading, the first part is cut off. It's like catacomb of consequences. It's supposed to be like a Wheel of Fortune type of thing. That was the idea we had for the intro. And you can see all these characters that my youngest made, and then the backgrounds and stuff, a lot of different objects my eldest made. And so let's hit start game. So I made the music. It's just a little classy background, kind of ominous brooding thing. So I don't know how dark this is on the screen, but there's a crowbar here, right? So we click that. It makes a little sound, like on Minecraft when you pick something up. So I made that with my mouth. So let's click this crate, and then we're gonna use a crowbar, right? Boom. So now, nice, a torch. Maybe I can find a way to light it. So it drops a torch on the ground. An unlit torch. I could see better if I get it lit. Okay. Well, what's this? Oh, it's a candle. A flickering candle emitting a dim light. What happens if I use my unlit torch on this? Oh, look at that. We got light. We can see. So this took me quite a bit of time to get working how I wanted it to, because I was trying to develop the systems in a way that I wouldn't have to copy and paste like individual scenes, which I ended up doing because I was panicking. But this wasn't too bad to get working. You can see the outline on the door doesn't quite work for some objects, like the chain here. That doesn't quite work. So some of the unintended consequences, like here we have a key, okay. We have a cushion, right? So the cool thing is there's multiple ways to kind of try to do things, but there's one right way, and you have to kind of find it by trial and error. So the thing is, like if I use this crowbar on this door,
this is my donkey.
So the bad guy, Shrek, just comes out and busts you. Because the idea is that it makes a super loud noise, and then it starts you over. Likewise, if you deal with this chain,
I feel like
it makes a loud sound.
Oh, my donkey!
And he comes and gets you, right? So if we don't do that, and we just grab this nice key right here, and we just use the key, plays that very nice door creak sound I tried to make with my mouth, and we go to the next room. Look at that. What's this guy? What appears to be a flamingo trying to flex on the haters.
Flamingo!
That's my son's favorite character. He voiced that line, and I tweaked it in Audacity to make it like deeper and more reverb and stuff on it. I'm gonna grab that broom while I'm there. A heavy gate. Hopefully it's out. It's the way out of here. I hope so. So I talked to Flamingo again. Have you seen my beach ball? It's shaped like this. Flexes, because he kind of looks like he's just sitting there flexing. What? You're asking if I skip leg day? Get out of my face. What do you want? You're getting on my nerves, bro. You want to throw down? Man, you're not worth my time, chump.
Say hello to my little donkey.
And then he's like, now you've done it. And he starts screaming, right? And then I have randomized fail messages, so I stole some lines from Darkest Dungeon, because my eldest had that idea. And so this is the game. You trial and error, you experiment, you get better every single time, and it's kind of intriguing to see what some of these unintended consequences are. So, for example, what if I want this chain? Well, I have this cushion. What happens if I interact with this cushion? I place the soft cushion underneath to catch the chain. Okay. So what if I use this key on it? Are you being for real right now? So some of the fail messages, we got random ones there. Some things are just not possible. So if I use a crowbar, I can pry it down and it lands on the cushion so it keeps it quiet so the big guy doesn't come through, right? Then I can take this chain. You can't pick up the cushion again because I wasn't able to figure it out a clean way to do that without double stacking items together, and that was kind of messy. So let's go to the next room. Okay, so we talked to Flamingo. Flamingo! So we know that he's kind of angry. I don't want to mess with him too much anymore. What happens if I use a key on this? Doesn't work. Okay. I could use a crowbar, but I don't. That's gonna, that didn't work out so well last time. Can I just use a crowbar in this? Can I just bust out of here? Can I use a key on it? No, nothing's working. I'm gonna try a key on this door. Bam, right? So now we're in the next room. There's some more stuff here. Like, what's this? Oh my god, a rat. I'll name him Terry.
Squeak, squeak, buddy.
That's my youngest. He's a professional voice actor now. So he makes some noise, and squeaker squeak. It bares its teeth. It looks angry. Probably don't want to mess with him. Okay. So there's a heavy barrel that sounds like it's full of something. Okay, I'm gonna take this rope. I'm gonna use a crowbar on this thing. Oh no, I spilled water on my torch. Well darn, I might need that. How about this chest? Can I use this key on it? Doesn't seem to work. So that doesn't work. What's down here? A skeleton is just legit chilling in this basement, right? So there's a bunch of random stuff in here that my boys drew. We came up with the story. I made it happen. This appears to be a freaking nuke, right? So again, I'm gonna grab this metal pipe. I'm hang on. What's this say? No sound comes within when I tap it. What if I use a crowbar on this? Score! Some tools! These will be handy. A small handsaw. The teeth seem very dull, but it still might be useful. Then we have a hammer that looks like it's seen some use. So there we go. We got a nice hammer going on. So, fun fact. Gotta be careful with this nuke, right? So what if I want to use this hammer on it? Boom! Wasted. Alright? Cool. So that's the idea of the game. I don't want to get in too much farther because I don't want to spoil the game for you in case you decide to play it. But I highly recommend just checking it out. It's kind of fun. But anyway, that's not what this video is about. It's not about getting you to play my game. It's about, talking about the game. Let me refresh the page, that way it stops playing. So let's kind of go through my experience of how we made this game. So as I said, the first day, we're brainstorming ideas. My son started working on some character art, and then my eldest started working on background art. And the next day is when we really started working on stuff, because again, Friday, the theme was announced. I didn't pick up the boys till a few hours after. We only had like an hour or two for bedtime. So we just kind of planned, right? Also, as part of the planning, I threw together a Trello board while we were planning things. And I abandoned this about halfway through. But it was really handy at the start. So these were the assets that we had on day one. The true day one. So we woke up the next day. That's when we really started working on it for us, right? So day one, my youngest threw together these assets. And some of them we used, some of them we didn't. I cleaned them up a little bit. I added the black outline to them to make them match the backgrounds that my eldest had done. And we had an issue with the original backgrounds because what ended up happening is my youngest made super tiny pixel art. Like the characters are like 16 by 16. Like they're really tiny. And then my eldest, I told him like, well, I told my youngest to do 64 by 64. He only used like a small part of that canvas. Maybe if we make the dungeon like 1280 by 720, should be good. So my eldest started working, making 1280 by 720. Well, we got the first art, right? And we find out that the characters are this big and the background is massive. And so I was like, okay, what are we going to do? So I tried shrinking down the background, and then it was too distorted, too thick. So I ended up like kind of staying up late, and I was redoing his art and trying to like recreate it as best as I could to fit more. The resolution that we ended up going with is 320 by 180, which is tiny. Still 16 by 9 resolution, but tiny. So that was actually that was the very first night. That's what they came up with, and then that was that background is me trying to do the same thing that my eldest did. So day 2, let's actually look at the Trello board for day 1. So I threw this together because we were brainstorming ideas. I was just throwing stuff on the Trello board, and as my boys would finish up their assets, they'd shout like, "Hey Dad, what's next?" And I would just pick something off the list. I'd read some stuff off to them and see what sounded cool. So the ones in blue are my youngest, the ones in green are my oldest, and the ones in yellow are stuff that I did. So you can see my youngest was cranking out stuff. So he drew a rat, he drew Shrank, which the first character he drew was Shrek, and I was like, okay, we can't do that because copyright, we're gonna get in trouble. I'll just make it blue and I'll make him wield a donkey. I'm like, okay. So that's the bad guy. So Shrank is the bad guy, or Shrank. I forgot what we called him. It's something. Shrunk. I don't know. Then he also drew McReginald, which is a clown, which is holding a burger, which looks suspiciously like another prominent inspiration, let's say. He also drew a slime. He started drawing Puss in Boots, again from Shrek, but I was like, dude, copyright. What if we just make it like Possum Boots instead? So he tweaked it to be a possum. And it looks awesome. And then he drew his original character, Flamingo, and because he was asking me like, what should I draw? And I was just kind of like, I don't know, we need a flamingo. And so he drew this flamingo, and originally it was supposed to be like leaning up against a wall, but to me it looked like he was flexing. So I was like, oh, that flamingo. And then flamingo was born, right? He also drew a nuke. We had a bomb. I think we drew a bomb, or maybe that was the nuke. He drew the Skelly Boy. He also drew a shotgun that we didn't get a chance to put in the game. And then my eldest did doors and dungeon rooms, and the reason why I'm added to those is because I had to kind of redo those because they were way too big. And then I did ladders just for funsies. And then my eldest also did some gems, coins, and crates and barrels, and we were able to use those just fine. So awesome. So that was day 1, right? Day 1, we're just cranking out art assets. I haven't even typed up a line of code yet, and so yeah, that's day 1. So day 2 is when. Well, first of all, day 2 we slept in because it's the weekend. We chilling, right? We just chilling. We slept in. It was great. So here's day 2, right? So I'm firing up. Let's go about here. So I'm firing up the game. It's super tiny. So I already have the light working and the cursor for the torch, and I'm trying to like interact with items to get that shader outline working. And it seems to be working okay, and I can interact with doors, and I can go to the next room. So I had that working day 1. That wasn't too hard to get working, but I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how I was going to make things work. So you can probably see here, like in this little video I have playing, I got like my main.gd, which is the main scene, and then I have a game state, which is like an auto load where I just kind of put everything in game state, and that's how I was managing all this stuff. So that's what I did for day 2. I started throwing that stuff together, and then my boys, let's see, what's the Trello board on day 2? What did we get done? So I spent a lot of time importing all the assets into Godot, and also just tweaking them to have the black outlines and stuff to match the other art style that my eldest was doing. And so yeah, we were doing that. So we still have a bunch of art assets ready to be imported. We decided that the game over screen was going to be like the wasted screen from Grand Theft Auto. So that was fun. And you can see I'm kind of completing some code tasks over here. So I planned how to make the game. I just started on that, implemented the room scene, door scene, item scene. I was going to make these like classes and stuff that you could use. Implement the game state auto load, implement the mouse cursor, implement the border shader, and implement lighting effects. So I did those the first day. And then I was working on doing more brainstorming on the theme, doing more planning on the story. We didn't quite know what the story was yet. Planning sort of the room layouts and item placement and things like that, and also brainstorming the actual unintended consequences of the game. So that was where we left off with day 2. So day 3, we didn't end up doing much on day 3 because it was a pretty chill day. I did a lot of thinking about how I was going to code stuff because I felt like, you know, as we were getting more and more ideas, scope creep is a thing. So I was debating about how I wanted to handle things, and I was doing a lot of thinking on that, but we just ended up having a chill day. We just played some video games and relaxed. As the boys wanted to work on things, I gave them some more ideas for stuff. But yeah, this was the day before I had to go drop them off back to their moms, and I was trying to like do some brainstorming, get some ideas, because what I wanted to have happen was I wanted to be able to program it all during the week after work and then have like a playable demo for them, and then we could spend that whole next weekend trying to get it all, you know, more ideas thrown in, tweaks, fixes, ideas they might have, and then we get it ready for submission, right? That didn't end up happening. So day 4, I got home and I was pretty exhausted from work because it was a Monday. Ended up just immediately taking a nap. Once I slept for about an hour or so, I pulled up Godot. I stared blankly at the screen for a few minutes, then reread my devlog notes to pick up where I was. And then once I had an idea of like what I was going to do, I went to work removing the backgrounds and importing the latest assets that my boys made me. And let's see, what else did I do? Let's check out day 4. So there's still lots of assets. We did record a lot of sounds. I forgot that. On day 3, we recorded a bunch of sounds. And the sounds were fun because what we did is I think like half of the sounds were Nerf guns. So my son has like a whole bin of Nerf guns over here. And he was just passing me Nerf guns. And I would just like, I would pop open Audacity, and then I would just like fiddle with it and like record it and then see if it sounded like anything. And the boys would throw in ideas like, oh, that sounds like you're flipping a switch, or that kind of sounds like you're stepping on a creaking board, right? So we were recording sound effects together. My son wanted to do some voices, so he voiced some of the characters. And then, yeah, so at that point we had some sounds, right? We had doors opening, closing, switches, levers, buttons, creaking. We had chains, which was a metal slinky. That's what that chain was from. We had a hand crank, which was more Nerf guns. We had digging, which was, I think, me like hitting a Pepsi can or something like that with a fork and then like tweaking it in Audacity to make it sound like you're digging something. We didn't even end up using that one. Flamingo, jiggle fiddle will sound like you're picking a lock. We got that. Nuke, pickup, pops, possum boots, prying something loose. You're going to hear that a lot in the game when you use the crowbar. So we had all these sounds kind of recorded, and then I figured I had enough to start with, right? So day 4, I worked on importing all that stuff into Godot. Then if we pop open, let's just pop open Godot so we can take a look at it. So I started kind of making these classes, right? I made like an item class and an interactable class, and I made them like be an actual scene. And I had all the things here at first, which was a big mistake. But I was kind of working on this. So the code for this basically has a bunch of different things that we're doing. I ended up dynamically making this stuff. So I'm just making a sprite on the fly. I'm also making an area 2D on the fly. And I'm making a collision shape node on the fly. because those are the main things we need. The sprite is what displays the image. The area 2D is what allows us to determine if we're colliding with it. And then the collision shape is what the area 2D uses to determine where its bounds of collision are. So if I want to make something that's interactable, I wanted to have a shader that would make an outline around it if you mouse over it. So the area 2D uses that collision shape, and it will emit a signal that will tell you if you've been moused over, or if the mouse is exited, or if you click on it. So that's what I'm doing there. I'm adding it all together. It's sprite, the area 2D is a child of the sprite, and then the collision shape is a child of the area 2D. And I hook up the signals manually. And then I also resize the collision shape to basically be the size of the sprite, is what I'm doing. So I'm doing all that with code. I had a concrete scene made out at first, and it was having problems. And then I just have these things connected. So that's basically the code of how I made that work. And for this, I forgot to mention, I'm using Godot 3. I'm not using Godot 4 because I've been using Godot 4 for a newer project, and it's been having some problems. I think I'm on 4.2.2 on my new game I've been working on that I haven't even shown on the channel. But I went back to Godot 5.3 or 3.5.3, which is the most stable release for version 3, and I've been having pretty good luck with that. So that's what I did. And then for item, it's a very similar pattern. It's basically the same thing. I could combine a lot of this stuff. The difference is the items have a different function that happens when you click on them. So I could have combined this into one scene and made it like an item or an interactable, but whatever. Hindsight's 2020. There's lots of better ways of doing this. I was tired and just trying to get something working. So that's what I did. But basically, this is what the entire game is. It's in the main scene, I'm setting up rooms, and I'm populating it with items and interactables. And then the big thing was this game state. I don't know why I decided to do this. I probably should have just done actual room scenes and stored the state in those and just maybe make them not visible when they're not being used or whatnot, but this is what I did. This is sort of like my database. It's basically just a big JSON object is what it really is. It's a dictionary. And here I have an inventory. I specify what room we're currently in. Some other stuff, spoilers, you can't look at that. And then in every room, I'm defining like, hey, what's the sprite path that we're using for the actual room background? Is the background flipped or not? What decor are we adding, which are stuff that you cannot interact with, such as like tables or shelves or torches or lanterns and things like that. Those are things that get added dynamically that you can't interact with. Then we also have doors. Doors have all these special descriptions and stuff and things. We have items, which are things that you can pick up. And we have interactables, which are things that you can typically use an item on. So we have those. And every room is kind of that same way. And so this is how I'm managing all this state. So in here, I'm declaring this as initial. And then farther down here, I'm declaring current, and I'm duplicating the initial state, and I'm basically just setting it to be that. So the reason why is that when you fail, I can just revert the current game state back to the initial, and then everything's reset. So that's why I went with that approach. I don't know. There's probably better ways of doing it with Godot, but that's what I did, and yeah, so that's fun. So basically, my week of programming, I didn't get much done during the week. I got it started, and then I floundered for a bit trying to figure out the best way of how I wanted to handle the interactables and trying to handle all the edge cases and things like that, and it wasn't going together very well. So day 5, I did nothing. I couldn't even sleep, though I was exhausted, and I was a zombie when I got to work. Once I got home, I promptly went to bed and slept until it was time to get up for work again. So I have a picture on my phone, 2 pictures actually, of this little Garmin watch I use. It also tracks your sleep. And that one night I couldn't sleep. I got like 1 hour of sleep. That was it. And I couldn't sleep. And then the next day I got 13 hours of sleep. So catching up on that sleep deficit. The worst part is I wasn't sleeping. I could have been working on the game, and I wasn't. I was just laying in bed just trying to go to sleep so I could focus at work tomorrow. Didn't happen. Day 6, worked on defining rest of the items and started on interactables. Was deciding how I wanted to make it all be able to call events in a normal manner. So I made this events.gd, which is another auto load. I've got a bunch of auto loads here that it's probably a bad habit to get into, but this is where I specify like various things to do with events. So whenever you try to interact with something and you fail, I have a random array of funny messages that my boys and I came up with to put in the chat log, right? We also have item fail messages when you I don't think I'm even using those. I was gonna have it to where some items you have to use another item to pick it up, and I was like, why don't I just make that an interactable, and then you just it spawns the item and then you can pick it up or whatever. So I didn't even end up using these. I could have probably moved these up there, but whatever. And then there's game over messages, which are random things for when you fail, when you get caught by Shrink, or you might get stabbed by one of the other NPCs who you keep messing with, right? So I got all that there. And then game over sounds. So that was some voice lines that my eldest recorded for Shrink, the bad guy. So we got 6 different voiceovers that it randomizes there. And then I'm doing some really bad patterns here. So you see here I'm doing like get tree. Let's zoom in on this here. Get tree, root, get node. And I'm doing main, UI, canvas layer, and chat log, right? So I'm trying to get a node that's outside this. You're supposed to call down and signal up. I'm calling up. I'm just like, I don't care about connecting signals, because I was like, I don't even know how I'm going to connect it, because I have to get a reference to that thing to connect it in the first place. So whatever. I decided to just make it work because I was running out of time. So this is where I ran into that huge problem where I made the item class a scene with all the things made already, and all the item scenes that I had made at the time, which you can see I got a bunch here. All of those I made were basically useless, and I had to redo them. So that was at this point I was extremely tired and defeated and just went to bed. So day 7, work had been kicking my ass. By the time I got home, I was on the verge of giving up. It was already Thursday, and I didn't have any real progress to show the boys when I picked them up tomorrow after work. Sat down and gave it a shot anyway to see what I could do, as I didn't want all their efforts to go to waste. So that was having a bad time on Thursday. I was like, I haven't gotten anything done. I literally have no more progress to show them. It's all been like behind the scenes code stuff to try to make it work better, and it was failing miserably. And so I was not having a good time. I ended up being able to solve the issue that defeated me the night prior in about 15 minutes. Wasn't the cleanest workaround, but I was on a time crunch. Basically, I just created the nodes manually and ready and connected all the signals myself and stored references to those nodes and variables. I could make changes to them on the fly. So I just go through a bunch of stuff. This is when I started actually getting some stuff done. I think I worked out how to do the interactables in some manner. So I made the menu when you click a interactable to pick which item you want to use on it. I got that working on Thursday. I found the tiny font, and I made the chat log, which my UI stuff is actually pretty simple. So my chat log, what this does is it just has a few colors defined for the various events, and every time you do something, you can call this add entry with the text and what the entry type is, and it just adds it to this little chat log at the bottom left corner that shows what you've been doing, right? And this was pretty simple to make. If we look at the scene itself here, there's nothing here because it's just it's a control node Then we have a margin container, and then we have a VBox container, which with the alignment set to end, and I made it full, like take up the full space. So all the messages are going down here. So that's what we got going on, and that was pretty easy to make. That's one of the things I love about Godot, and that I still have like this trauma from Game Maker, and it was actually the reason why, if we look at my, let's just look at some of my content. Let's look at playlists here. Here we go. So I have this playlist called I Make My Own Game, Start to Finish, which ironically I haven't finished yet. So get off my back. I started that actually about 2 years ago. And I've hardly done any work on my game in the last year, which I might start doing some more on. But with this thing, you can see I got to about part 29, and then the icon just sort of changes. And now I go to Godot. So I got to about 29, where I was starting to work on the title screen, and so I was starting to work on the UI. With Game Maker, there's no UI system built in inherently. You have to do everything yourself. And I hated it. Especially me, I was a web developer. Oh, I still am a web developer. I'm not just a web developer. I do lots of different stuff. But I was a web developer at the time, and I was doing a lot of stuff in React, and I was using different design systems, and I was like, I can whip up a UI in React and pretty quick, but man, it takes me a long time to whip up anything in Game Maker, because there's no built-in UI system for it. So, part 30, I switched to a whole new engine, just because I don't want to do UI. So that's when I switched to Godot, was November 2022. That's when I switched to the Godot engine. And since then, I've done about 20 more devlogs throughout the next year. My last devlog was April 24th, 2023. It's been 15 months since my last devlog? Wow. Anyway, so yeah, I switched to a whole different engine. Because the UI system in Game Maker is non-existent. You had to program yourself. Whereas in Godot, you actually have control nodes that are designed to do UI stuff, and it took me a bit of effort to get used to how they work in version 3. I think they've made some improvements to them in version 4, which I did appreciate, but it makes sense to me now how the UI works, and I got this up and running in like 5 minutes. And that was just me kind of testing it back and forth, just making it look like I want. It would have taken me hours in Game Maker to get something working like this how I wanted it to. Actually, no, I take that back. It would have been pretty easy for this in Game Maker. It would have taken me probably about an hour to get it programmed and working how I expect and all that stuff. But yeah, it's just much easier in Godot because it has a built-in UI system and it makes sense and I love it. But I have this negative like stigma towards UI to where it comes like, oh god, it's time for UI. I just dread it. And then like I drag my feet about it. That's actually why I haven't made a devlog video about my space game I'm making, is because I'm in the middle of making UI changes, and for some reason I feel like it's going to be too hard and I just don't want to do it. Even though once I get into it, it's like, oh, actually that was a lot easier than I thought. Huh. So maybe I might delve back into my game because it's been 15 months since my last devlog for that. Holy cow. Anyway, I made this super quick. I love Godot for the UI. It's amazing. The next day is Friday. Now, for those that don't know, on July 18th, 2024, is when there was probably one of the biggest IT outages ever. And, well, it affected the organization that I work for. And most of the world, actually. So it wasn't just us that was affected. It was like businesses, governments, banks, airports. Like stuff was shutting down. It was nuts. So I was dealing with that. Thankfully, it was a easy fix. It was annoying because you had to do it in person at the computer manually. You couldn't remote in or do anything like that. Because we have physical machines out. If it was like a virtual machine. If we were doing VMs and stuff like that, we could have probably done something, but not our setup. So I was going to computer, basically booting it up in safe mode command prompt and removing this corrupted channel file that CrowdStrike had. For those of you who don't know, CrowdStrike is a security, like endpoint protection, antivirus software, and it protects you, but something went wrong with one of the internal files, and it, from what I could tell, from the behavior that I saw, it would cause a blue screen on Windows, and it seemed to me it was causing a memory leak like instantaneously. Like something went wrong and it wasn't allocating memory properly, and it would just crash the operating system. So you couldn't get into Windows. And that happened to at least half of the computers that we had there. Some computers weren't even affected. So I was dealing with that. So day 8, I guess it's technically day 8. I don't know. Friday, I didn't get much stuff done. Was not having a good time. Thankfully, I was still able to get off work, and I was still able to go pick up my boys. And then we got home. I broke the news like, hey, I don't have anything done on the game. My bad. I ended up scrapping almost everything I had at the time for interactables, and this is where I made the decision to just do it in a really ugly way. So I'll show you what I mean by a really ugly way. So we have interactables here, right? Have all these different things like anvil, barrel, water, barrel, worn key, candle, right? So check this out. Let's take a look at barrel, worn key. So it's just a scene that has a script to it. And the script is basically like 70 some odd lines. And what I did is for every, because I was having a hard time trying to conceive how I was going to make a class or something that could handle every little nuance and difference I needed to have for a interactable object, that I just said, screw it. I hit option paralysis. I was just in analysis paralysis and I was getting stuck. So I was like, we're just going to do it ugly. We're running out of time. So I made every individual scene, and I would just copy and paste everything to the next scene. So if we go to candle, I copied and pasted this. I would just remove what I didn't need. I would change what I wanted to. I would set the sprite it would load. I would set the description of it. I would go through and just change a few different things here and there, and then move on to the next thing. And I did that for every single interactable. It's like 99% the same code. Just small things changed here and there. But the differences were so vast that I was trying to make like one class that I could do it all with, and it was becoming so bloated and genericized that it was becoming unwieldy to use. So I just went with the good old tried and trusty game jam method of just, we'll do it live, and I just did everything copy paste. I did not worry about keeping my code dry. It is very, very wet. Don't repeat yourself. Well, I'm repeating myself a whole lot. That's what dry means. So day 9, which is technically Saturday. So I guess it's, day 10 is like this. So it's technically a 10-day. I don't know. It falls 10 days because we didn't get started. The first day we only had a few hours, right? And then it kind of bleeds into the day 2. So then day 10 is actually a continuation. Like it's still 9 days, 9 24-hour cycles, right? That's how long you have. But by day 9, Saturday, I'm getting kind of worried. I'm running out of time. So the boys and I are cheering me on, or the boys are cheering me on. I keep working on it. I did a ton of small tweaks. I got the interactables working, and I was trucking along with that. I added other lights, lots of fun interactions. I edited all the sounds in Audacity to have them all be normalized in volume, and also to make a quick background music track. I also started, I put the description UI together, the little text that appears at the top whenever you mouse over something. And at that point, I was getting much more optimistic about the game, because I was like, oh, this is actually a game. You're playing it. Like, it's got some gameplay to it. It's kind of fun. And then the rest was a kind of a blur, because I was just putting everything together. I was making NPCs and putting them in places, and yeah. And then the final day, day 10, Sunday, which was yesterday as of this recording, I made sure I got 8 hours of sleep, because I was feeling it. So I woke up with 7 hours to go. Time to work on the final room. So I got the final room done. I got all this stuff knocked out. I added a few more interactables, and then I needed to make the ending. So I spent some time working on the ending. My son wanted to have one of the characters that I wasn't going to be able to fit in the game because we're running out of time. Wanted to have him like just spinning out for some reason. So we put him in the ending, and then I made the credits screen. Yeah, and I threw together a title screen. And then from there, it was just making last-minute adjustments, and I worked trying to get everything in that I could until an hour before the deadline. And then I was like, okay, that's my hard cutoff. It's time to start building this thing and getting ready for submission. So this is where my confusion came in, because I never had made an export in Godot before, and I didn't know what I was doing. When I Googled how to do it, it brought me to the compiling for web in the documentation. And this looked like it was going to be fun. I have to install this Inscription thing, which requires Python. So I have to install Python, which is a programming language. So I probably have to set environment variables and stuff like that. And then it uses this scons thing to build it. And I was like, I don't know if I should do this in Linux or if I should boot back to Windows, because the documentation I was seeing, for the most part, was written for Windows operating systems. I didn't know if I was going to have the luxury of time to try to configure this all within an hour. So I booted back to Windows. I'm running Linux. And I haven't booted back to Windows in a few months. Guess who wants to do updates? Your good old buddy, old pal, Microsoft Windows. So I spent about 15 minutes watching updates go through. Really made me love Windows even more. I got up and running. I started installing this stuff, and then I was like following the steps here. It didn't make any sense. I had to get the source code, and I downloaded the source code. It's like my downloads folder is a mess on the Windows side because I was trying to get it all working. And then I just found out that you can just go into Godot, into the editor, and you can go to Manage Export Templates, and then you could just download and install them here. And then once you do that, you can just pick the HTML5 export, and then you can just export. You don't have to do whatever the hell this crap was. At least I don't think I did, because I wasn't able to get to work. So I did that. Anyway, I thought I got it all submitted just in time. I got a good build. I was able to run it. I tested it really quick. And then I had to upload it to itch.io, which I had never really messed with before. So I threw it up really quick. And I got it and I thought we just had to put it in this Jam submissions channel in the Godot Wild Jam Discord. And I thought that was how you submit. But I was wrong. It's not how you submit. So I missed the deadline. But thankfully, the people who run this jam are super cool. They have a help desk. They understand you can do late submissions. You know, they saw that, where did I put my submission? Come on. I know it's here somewhere. Here we go. So I submitted it at 3:58 p.m. on Sunday. The deadline is 4 p.m. my time. Now, at the time, I was checking my watch. I had 1 minute and 40 seconds to go before I thought I made my submission. So I submitted it. And I thought, oh, we made it. Woo! We're celebrating. I took the boys to the pool. We had a good time before I had to go drop the boys off at their mom's. So, yeah, fun stuff there. And then I started finding out, I'm like, wait a minute. How am I supposed to, like, play these games? Like, I mean, like, where is the submission process? Like, where's that at? Like, what's the judging, scoring, and rating? Where's that at? Because in GM48, this was all a self-contained site. This is what I was used to. This is the only game jams I've done. it was all self-contained here. You would submit it here, you would do your ratings here, you would do everything in this site. And I was like, okay, well, let me check their site. I didn't find anything. Okay, we have the phases here, jam and playtest, and the submission fixes, and then voting lasts for a week. Where do we vote at? Frequently asked questions should be where do we vote? I couldn't find anyway. Anyway, it's all in the itch.io. The jam itself is run on itch.io. I just found this out today about a few hours ago. So I learned it. So yeah, so this is so voting ends in 5 days, 19 hours, 8 minutes, and 10 seconds. Cool. So this is yeah, super cool. Let's check out all the submissions. So I've rated 10 submissions so far. I'm still working on a bunch, but we've got 139 entries. Really awesome. So I'm pumped about that. Seems to be a pretty wild, no, I guess it is a wild jam. A pretty lively jam. Lots of participants. The GM48, when I was doing it years ago, you know, we were getting anywhere between 70 to 120 submissions every game jam, depending on the theme. So, and this happened like every 3 months. This jam happens every month. Every second Friday of the month, which is awesome. So I might do it again in the future. And I might just take my time and not stress as much if I do it again. Because I was doing some hardcore crunch towards the end, and that was not good. To do the jam, there's a submission section. It's closed right now because the submission period's ending. But you have to submit it on the itch.io. So now that I know that, I'll do that in the future. So thankfully I was able to put in a help desk ticket through their Discord to have one of the moderators or whatever check it out. They were super cool. And they also gathered some feedback like, hey, is this your first game jam? Like, how did you hear about Wild Jam? Because it sounds like what they're running into is they're having a lot of people who are doing their first time jams. And from what I can tell, the Discord and their site are secondary to the actual itch.io page. The itch.io is where everything is focused on, and the Discord and the actual website are in support of that. Whereas me, I googled them, and I googled like Godot game jams, and it brought me to their Wild Jam page, and I thought everything was on here. And so it says join the jam, which takes you to the itch.io page. I thought, I don't know. I missed that detail. So I thought the Discord was where we submitted it, but it's not. It's the itch.io. Anyway, I got it submitted. So now I'm going through and I'm playing games, but I just wanted to make a quick devlog talking about my experience with this and how cool it is to do game jams again, because I really missed it. I forgot how much I missed it. And my boys are super happy, especially my youngest, because now he has this link that he can go to show his friends, like, hey, my dad made this, you know? And it's a pretty fun game with the art that he made, and I don't know, maybe I might be able to convince him to try making his own game. And because I remember back in 2009 is when I started making video games and programming. And I installed Game Maker 8. Where is that? Game Maker 8. This is before they had Game Maker Studio. Wow, they have it on a site. I don't know if this is this is probably malware, to be honest. But yeah, this is what it looked like. It was like a Windows XP. Actually, this is Windows 7. But it was a pretty old looking program, right? There was no dark mode for it. That's why I started. So I made like a little sprite of a knight, and I figured out how to like make the animation work, right? A little knight walking across the screen. And then it took me a while to figure out how to make it actually walk across the screen. So I had to program the input to like, hey, when I press the D key, I want you to make him move. It's like, okay. So I found out that pressed and like press are different. So if I pressed it, it just makes him walk, and then he keeps going until that's no longer true. Anyway, I made him walk, then he kept walking, he wouldn't stop. So then I made him stop, but his sprite kept playing, and then I made him walk back and forth. Once I figured that out, it took me about 2 weeks in my spare time because I was pretty preoccupied at the time. That was the time I was deployed to Iraq. So I was a little bit busy. I did that in my spare time. When I made that character walk across that screen for the first time, that feeling of triumph was awesome. And it got me hooked. And I get that same feeling when I do this game jam. I don't even care if I win. For me, winning is just getting a submission in place, which, I mean, technically I lost. I didn't submit it right, you know, but I got it in, baby. So it's there. So, and that's the cool thing about game jams. And I've been excited playing some of these other submissions. I'm not going to play any on the video here, just out of respect for the creators who made them. But yeah, really, really cool. And I don't know. I just wanted to make a video talking about my thoughts, and it's re-sparked my interest to do more video games and stuff. And I'll probably start working on my devlog again. And if you're curious about the game code, again, I have it on my GitHub, AxeWizardBGG. It's a public repository. So if you want to see how I made this beast of a game, you can see my ugly code beneath it. I should add a README, but whatever. But anyway, if you're looking through the code, everything kind of starts in main.gd. This is where a lot of the magic happens. And I tried to keep my code commented, so it's got some ugly nesting in there. I do a few things I'm not quite sure how it's the best way to do, but it works. So, not too bad. And yeah, a lot of the sounds, all the assets are there. It's good stuff. Anyway, thank you so much for watching and listening to me ramble about my experience. I'll probably end up doing this again. I think I might participate in the next one. And we'll see what theme they come up with. And if the boys want to join me in it, cool. If not, I'll probably just work on something solo. But we'll see. I'll just play it by ear. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. And I will see you in whatever video I make next.